The life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living. If you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need. The authority of those who teach is often an obstacle to those who want to learn. Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. The wise are instructed by reason, average minds by experience, the stupid by necessity, and the brute by instinct. A room without books is like a body without a soul. The enemy is within the gates. It is with our own luxury, our own folly, our own criminality that we have to contend. Freedom is a man's natural power of doing what he pleases, so far as he is not prevented by force or law. The greater the difficulty, the greater the glory. Friendship improves happiness and abates misery by the doubling of our joy and the dividing of our grief. It is foolish to tear one's hair in grief, as though sorrow would be made less by baldness. Silence is one of the great arts of conversation. In times of war, the law falls silent. The sinews of war are infinite money. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. The function of wisdom is to discriminate between good and evil. The higher we are placed, the more humbly we should walk. As I approve of a youth that has something of the old man in him, so I am no less pleased with an old man that has something of the youth. He that follows this rule may be old in body, but can never be so in mind. Nature has planted in our minds an insatiable longing to see the truth. The good of the people is the greatest law. To be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is to remain always a child. A happy life consists in tranquility of mind. The safety of the people shall be the highest law. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. The shifts of fortune test the reliability of friends. For books are more than books, they are the life, the very heart and core of ages past, the reason why men worked and died, the essence and quintessence of their lives. The face is a picture of the mind with the eyes as its interpreter. True law is right reason in agreement with nature. It is of universal application, unchanging and everlasting. The man who backbites an absent friend, nay, who does not stand up for him when another blames him, the man who angles for bursts of laughter and for the repute of a wit, who can invent what he never saw, who cannot keep a secret, that man is black at heart. Mark and avoid him. We are all motivated by a keen desire for praise, and the better a man is, the more he is inspired to glory. The eyes are not responsible when the mind does the seeing. The whole glory of virtue resides in activity. The good of the people is the chief law. In everything, there is a share of everything. There is nothing so absurd that it has not been said by some philosopher. We should not be so taken up in the search for truth as to neglect the needful duties of active life, for it is only action that gives a true value and commendation to virtue. The noblest motive is the public good. Memory is the treasury and guardian of all things. While there's life, there's hope. What is morally wrong can never be advantageous, even when it enables you to make some gain that you believe to be to your advantage. The mere act of believing that some wrongful course of action constitutes an advantage is pernicious. Let us leave the philosophers to their endless discussions and devote ourselves to the study of poetry, which has the power to inspire us with noble thoughts and elevate our souls. The strongest fortress is the human heart, which can withstand the assaults of time and adversity. Fortune is fickle, and her favors are fleeting. Let us not be too proud in our prosperity, nor too despondent in our adversity. True glory is not in the accumulation of wealth or power, but in the service of one's country and the love of one's fellow men. Time flies on golden wings, and we must seize each moment before it slips away into the past. God always strives together with those who strive. Wisdom comes alone through suffering. In war, truth is the first casualty. He who learns must suffer. And even in our sleep, pain that cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, and in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom to us by the awful grace of God. For every evil under the sun, there is a remedy or there is none. If there be one, seek till you find it. If there be none, then never mind it. Happiness is a hard master, particularly other people's happiness. Death is easier than a wretched life, and better never to have born than to live and fare badly. The wisest of the wise may err. He who goes unenvied shall not be admired. It is in the character of very few men to honor without envy a friend who has prospered. To be able to enjoy one's past life is to live twice. He who has learned how to be angry in the right way has learned the best art of living. Not for ourselves alone are we born. Life is not merely being alive, but being well. The greatest pleasure in life is doing what people say you cannot do. Let him who expects one class of society to prosper in the highest degree, while the other is in distress, try whether one side of his face can smile while the other is pinched. The highest gift and favor of God is a pious, kind, godly, and domestic wife, with whom you may live peaceably, and to whom you may entrust all your possessions, your body, and your life. A true friend is one soul in two bodies. There is no greater glory than love, nor any greater punishment than jealousy. It is not that we have so little time, but that we lose so much. The life we receive is not short, but we make it so. We are not ill-provided, but use what we have wastefully. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. The mind is everything. What you think you become. Thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. It is better to travel well than to arrive. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think we become. Do not overrate what you have received, nor envy others. He who envies others does not obtain peace of mind. Just as a snake sheds its skin, we must shed our past over and over again. In the end, these things matter most. How well did you love? How fully did you live? How deeply did you let go? The whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts. The good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge. Do not fear to be eccentric in opinion, for every opinion now accepted was once eccentric. In all affairs, it's a healthy thing now and then to hang a question mark on the things you have long taken for granted. The only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation. The fundamental cause of the trouble is that in the modern world the stupid are cocksure while the intelligent are full of doubt. To be without some of the things you want is an indispensable part of happiness. The trouble with the world is that the stupid are sure and the intelligent are full of doubt. The good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge. Three passions, simple but overwhelmingly strong, have governed my life: the longing for love, the search for knowledge, and unbearable pity for the suffering of mankind. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. Well done is better than well said. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. In this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Energy and persistence conquer all things. Diligence is the mother of good luck. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. The essential American soul is hard, isolate, stoic, and a killer. It has never yet melted. The world of men is dreaming. It has gone mad in its sleep, and a snake is strangling it, but it can't wake up. A woman has to live her life, or live to repent not having lived it. I am not a mechanism, an assembly of various sections. And it is not because the mechanism is working wrongly that I am ill. I am ill because of wounds to the soul, to the deep emotional self. Be still when you have nothing to say. When genuine passion moves you, say what you've got to say, and say it hot. One sheds one's sicknesses in books, repeats and presents again one's emotions to be master of them. The business of art is to reveal the relation between man and his environment. The human soul needs actual beauty more than bread. For man, as for flower and beast and bird, the supreme triumph is to be most vividly, most perfectly alive. I can never decide whether my dreams are the result of my thoughts, or my thoughts the result of my dreams. Life is ours to be spent, not to be saved. There is no such thing as liberty. You only change one sort of domination for another. All we can do is to choose our master. We have lost the sense of the awfulness of all. Ours is essentially a tragic age, so we refuse to take it tragically. Men fight for liberty and win it with hard knocks. Their children, brought up easy, let it slip away again, poor fools. And their grandchildren are once more slaves. One's own self is well hidden from one's own self. Of all the mines of treasure, one's own is the last to be dug up. I want to live my life so that my nights are not full of regrets. I can never understand how two men can write a book together. To me, that's like three people getting together to have a baby. The only justice is to follow the sincere intuition of the soul, angry or gentle. Anger is just, and pity is just, but judgment is never just. Love is the flower of life, and blossoms unexpectedly and without law, and must be plucked where it is found, and enjoyed for the brief hour of its duration. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Those who don't know history are destined to repeat it. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Society cannot exist unless a controlling power upon will and appetite be placed somewhere, and the less of it there is within, the more there must be without. To make us love our country ought to be lovely. Your representative owes you not his industry only, but his judgment, and he betrays, instead of serving you, if he sacrifices it to your opinion. The first and simplest emotion which we discover in the human mind is curiosity. It is a general popular error to suppose the loudest complainers for the public to be the most anxious for its welfare. Example is the school of mankind, and they will learn at no other. The greater the power, the more dangerous the abuse. The true danger is when liberty is nibbled away for expedience and by parts. Bad laws are the worst sort of tyranny. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could do only a little. All government, indeed every human benefit and enjoyment, every virtue, and every prudent act, is founded on compromise and barter. The only way for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Those who have been once intoxicated with power and have derived any kind of emolument from it, even though but for 1 year, never can willingly abandon it. It is not what a lawyer tells me I may do, but what humanity, reason, and justice tell me I ought to do. You can never plan the future by the past. Our patience will achieve more than our force. The first duty of society is justice. The only way to predict the future is to have power to shape the future. In a world of change, the learners shall inherit the earth, while the learned shall find themselves perfectly suited for a world that no longer exists. We lie loudest when we lie to ourselves. The search for happiness is one of the chief sources of unhappiness. Rudeness is the weak man's imitation of strength. It is easier to love humanity as a whole than to love one's neighbor. Propaganda does not deceive people, it merely helps them to deceive themselves. The beginning of thought is in disagreement, not only with others, but also with ourselves. When people are free to do as they please, they usually imitate each other. The hardest arithmetic to master is that which enables us to count our blessings. To become different from what we are, we must have some awareness of what we are. We can never really repay our teachers who save us from a life of insignificance. We all have private ails. The troublemakers are they who need public cures for their private ails. The remarkable thing is that it is the crowded life that is most easily remembered. A life full of turns, achievements, disappointments, surprises, and crises is a life full of landmarks. The most important task of a society is to perpetuate itself. Yet this task is accomplished by a minority. The artists, the thinkers, and the poets are the vanguard of the race. The fear of becoming a has-been keeps some people from becoming anything. It is a sign of our powerlessness that the more we try to be different, the more we become the same. The greatest enemy of individual freedom is the individual himself. There is nothing worse than aggressive stupidity. The recipe for perpetual ignorance is be satisfied with your opinions and content with your knowledge. The only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. A little more persistence, a little more effort, and what seemed hopeless failure may turn to glorious success. The man who does not read good books has no advantage over the man who cannot read them. Honest criticism is hard to take, particularly from a relative, a friend, an acquaintance, or a stranger. Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. The best preparation for good work tomorrow is to do good work today. The object of teaching a child is to enable him to get along without a teacher. No man needs a vacation so much as the man who has just had one. The greatest gift you can give another person is your own personal development. The best way to prepare for life is to begin to live. Do not take life too seriously. You will never get out of it alive. The greatest mistake you can make in life is to be continually fearing you will make one. A friend is someone who knows all about you and still loves you. Happiness is a habit cultivated. The sculptor produces the beautiful statue by chipping away such parts of the marble block as are not needed. It is a process of elimination. Responsibility is the price of greatness. The love we give away is the only love we keep. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Genius may have its limitations, but stupidity is not thus handicapped. Love is not primarily a relationship to a specific person. It is an attitude, an orientation of character which determines the relatedness of a person to the world as a whole, not toward one object of love. Man's main task in life is to give birth to himself, to become what he potentially is. The most important product of his effort is his own personality. Immature love says, I love you because I need you. Mature love says, I need you because I love you. The only truly affluent are those who do not want more than they have. Freedom means the capacity to learn from mistakes. The task we must set for ourselves is not to feel secure, but to be able to tolerate insecurity. Creativity requires the courage to let go of certainties. The capacity to be puzzled is the premise of all creation, be it in art or in science. The most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mystical. It is the power of all true art and science. The quest for certainty blocks the search for meaning. Uncertainty is the very condition to impel man to unfold his powers. The fear of freedom is strong in all of us. The danger of the past was that men became slaves. The danger of the future is that men may become robots. The kind of relatedness to the world may be noble or trivial, but even being related to the basest kind of pattern is immensely preferable to being alone. Greed is a bottomless pit which exhausts the person in an endless effort to satisfy the need without ever reaching satisfaction. The same person is not a person who avoids neurosis, but one who experiences it fruitfully and creatively. To be himself, each individual must be freed from the tyranny of the majority. Man's nature, his passions, and anxieties are a culturally conditioned response to the facts of the human condition. Love is often nothing but a favorable exchange between two people who get the most of what they can expect, considering their value on the personality market. The fact that millions of people share the same vices does not make these vices virtues. The fact that they share so many errors does not make the errors to be truths. And the fact that millions of people share the same form of mental pathology does not make these people sane. I hope you live a life you're proud of. If you find that you're not, I hope you have the strength to start all over again. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in mind at the same time, and still retain the ability to function. You don't write because you want to say something, you write because you have something to say. Never confuse a single defeat with a final defeat. The best way to keep a secret is to pretend there isn't one. The world only exists in your eyes. You can make it as big or as small as you want. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. The loneliest moment in someone's life is when they are watching their whole world fall apart and all they can do is stare blankly. It's a funny thing coming home. Nothing changes. Everything looks the same, feels the same, even smells the same. You realize what's changed is you. The beauty of a woman is not in a facial mode, but the true beauty in a woman is reflected in her soul. It is the caring that she lovingly gives, the passion that she shows. The beauty of a woman grows with the passing years. It takes two to make an accident. I love her, and that's the beginning and end of everything. From a letter to his wife, Zelda. Action is character. I am not sure that I exist, actually. I am all the writers that I have read, all the people that I have met, all the women that I have loved, all the cities I have visited. The worst thing in the world is to try to sleep and not to. Without music, life would be a mistake. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. In every real man a child is hidden that wants to play. And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. The essence of all beautiful art, all great art, is gratitude. And we should consider every day lost on which we have not danced at least once. And we should call every truth false which was not accompanied by at least one laugh. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. It is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages. The man who has no inner life is a slave to his surroundings. There are no facts, only interpretations. I'm not upset that you lied to me. I'm upset that from now on I can't believe you. A thinker sees his own actions as experiments and questions as attempts to find out something. Success and failure are for him answers above all. You have your way. I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist. To forget one's purpose is the commonest form of stupidity. It is hard enough to remember my opinions without also remembering my reasons for them. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. Men are not prisoners of fate, but only prisoners of their own minds. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Happiness lies in the joy of achievement and the thrill of creative effort. Democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choice are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education. Remember always that all of us, and you and I especially, are descended from immigrants and revolutionists. I have seen war. I have seen war on land and sea. I have seen blood running from the wounded. I have seen the dead in the mud. I have seen cities destroyed. I have seen children starving. I have seen the agony of mothers and wives. I hate war. True individual freedom cannot exist without economic security and independence. We have always held to the hope, the belief, the conviction that there is a better life, a better world beyond the horizon. In these days of difficulty, we Americans everywhere must and shall choose the path of social justice, the path of faith, the path of hope, and the path of love toward our fellow man. It is common sense to take a method and try it. If it fails, admit it frankly and try another. But above all, try something. Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix the blame for the past. Let us accept our own responsibility for the future. The only way to have a friend is to be one. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. A nation that destroys its soils destroys itself. Forests are the lungs of our land, purifying the air and giving fresh strength to our people. We are not isolationists except insofar as we seek to isolate ourselves completely from war. Yet we must remember that so long as war exists on Earth, there will be some danger that even the nations most devoted to peace will find themselves drawn into it. When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. Study nature, love nature, stay close to nature. It will never fail you. The mother art is architecture. Without an architecture of our own, we have no soul of our own civilization. Form follows function that has been misunderstood. Form and function should be one, joined in a spiritual union. An idea is salvation by imagination. The thing always happens that you really believe in, and the belief in a thing makes it happen. I know the price of success, dedication, hard work, and an unremitting devotion to the things you want to see happen. The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. The good building is not one that hurts the landscape, but one which makes the landscape more beautiful than it was before the building was built. Freedom is from within. The space within becomes the reality of the building. Less is only more where more is no good. An architect's most useful tools are an eraser at the drafting board and a wrecking bar at the site. Tip the world over on its side and everything loose will land in Los Angeles. Study the past if you would divine the future. Organic architecture seeks superior sense of use and a finer sense of comfort, expressed in organic simplicity. A building is not just a place to be, but a way to be. The mission of an architect is to help people understand how to make life more beautiful, the world a better one for living in, and to give reason, rhyme, and meaning to life. Form and function are one. A building is a machine for living in. The architect must be a prophet in the true sense of the term. If he can't see at least 10 years ahead, don't call him an architect. I'm all in favor of keeping dangerous weapons out of the hands of fools. Let's start with typewriters. We are all strong enough to bear other men's misfortunes. There are some people who would never have fallen in love if they had not heard there was such a thing. Hypocrisy is the homage vice pays to virtue. We are easily deceived by those whom we love. The only thing constant in life is change. The greatest happiness you can have is knowing that you do not necessarily require happiness. The more we love someone, the less we flatter them. True love is like ghosts, which everybody talks about and few have seen. We often forgive those who bore us, but we cannot forgive those whom we bore. We all have strength enough to bear the misfortunes of others. Old age deprives the intelligent man only of qualities useless to wisdom. We often pride ourselves on even the most criminal passions, but envy is a timid and shameful passion we never dare to acknowledge. In love, there is always one who kisses and one who offers the cheek. We are never so happy nor so unhappy as we imagine. There are very few people who are not ashamed of having been in love when they no longer love each other. It is more shameful to distrust our friends than to be deceived by them. The surest way to reveal one's character is not through adversity, but by giving them power. There are some who never would have fallen in love if they had not heard there was such a thing. We are all strong enough to bear the misfortunes of others. Sincerity is an openness of heart. We find it in very few people. What we usually see is only an artful dissimulation to win the confidence of others. Knowledge is power. Nature, to be commanded, must be obeyed. If a man will begin with certainties, he shall end in doubts. But if he will be content to begin with doubts, he shall end in certainties. The job of the artist is always to deepen the mystery. A wise man will make more opportunities than he finds. Reading mocketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. The root of all superstition is that men observe when a thing hits, but not when it misses. Revenge is a kind of wild justice, which the more man's nature runs to, the more ought law to weed it out. He that will not apply new remedies must expect new evils, for time is the greatest innovator. Money is a great servant, but a bad master. Hope is a good breakfast, but it is a bad supper. There is no excellent beauty that hath not some strangeness in the proportion. The best part of beauty is that which no picture can express. Truth emerges more readily from error than from confusion. We are much beholden to Machiavel and others that write what men do and not what they ought to do. In order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. There is no comparison between that which is lost by not succeeding and that which is lost by not trying. The worst solitude is to be destitute of sincere friendship. Imagination was given to man to compensate him for what he is not, a sense of humor to console him for what he is. Men fear death as children fear to go in the dark, and as that natural fear in children is increased with tales, so is the other. The way to develop self-confidence is to do the thing you fear and get a record of successful experiences behind you. The most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. He that hath wife and children hath given hostages to fortune, for they are impediments to great enterprises, either of virtue or mischief. A little philosophy inclineth man's mind to atheism, but depth in philosophy bringeth men's minds about to religion. All colors will agree in the dark. The idols of the tribe have their foundation in human nature itself, and in the tribe or race of men. It is impossible to love and to be wise. Prosperity doth best discover vice, but adversity doth best discover virtue. The job of the judge is to administer justice, but the task of the interpreter is to understand meaning. Silence is the virtue of fools. I cannot say whether things will get better if we change. What I can say is they must change if they are to get better. A book is a mirror. If an ape looks into it, an apostle is hardly likely to look out. He who has a task to perform must know how to take sides, or he is quite unworthy of it. I cannot say whether things will get better if we change. What I can say is they must change if they are to get better. Everyone is a genius at least once a year. The real geniuses simply have their bright ideas closer together. What we do not understand, we do not possess. A person reveals his character by nothing so clearly as the joke he resents. It is almost always a fault of one who loves not to realize when he ceases to be loved. The greatest obstacle to discovery is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. The true test of character is not how much we know how to do, but how we behave when we don't know what to do. A man's writing is a porthole into his soul. Just as we outgrow a pair of trousers, we outgrow acquaintances, libraries, principles, etc. at times before they're worn out in times, and this is the worst of all, before we have new ones. It is often laziness and timidity that keep us within our duty while virtue gets all the credit. To be a man of knowledge, one needs to be light and fluid. Many things which cannot be overcome when they are together yield themselves up when taken little by little. It is the misfortune of the intelligent that they do not know how to mind their own business. When we see ourselves in a situation which must be endured and gone through, it is best to make up our minds to it, meet it with firmness, and accommodate everything to it in the best way practicable. This lessens the evil, while fretting and fuming only serves to increase your own torments. The most dangerous untruths are truths moderately distorted. The greatest advantage of being intelligent is that you can always play the fool. The opposite is much more difficult. A politician is a man who thinks of the next election. A statesman is a man who thinks of the next generation. One's first step in wisdom is to question everything, and one's last is to come to terms with everything. It is not by augmenting the capital of the country, but by rendering a greater part of that capital active and productive than would otherwise be so, that the most judicious operations of banking can increase the industry of the country. A book is like a garden carried in the pocket. It is always better to have too much courtesy than too little, provided you are not equally courteous to all, for that would be injustice. We are all geniuses up to the age of 10. What a blessing it is to have a friend who understands everything about you and still likes you. It is never too late to be what you might have been. Blessed is the influence of one true, loving human soul on another. Adventure is not outside man, it is within. What do we live for if not to make life less difficult for each other? Our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them. The strongest principle of growth lies in human choice. The important work of moving the world forward does not wait to be done by perfect men. It is a narrow mind which cannot look at a subject from various points of view. The reward of one duty is the power to fulfill another. It is a common sentence that knowledge is power, but who hath duly considered or set forth the power of ignorance? Animals are such agreeable friends, they ask no questions, they pass no criticisms. The happiest women, like the happiest nations, have no history. In every parting there is an image of death. The only failure one should fear is not hugging to the purpose they see as best. We are all of us imaginative in some form or other, for images are the brood of desire. It is easy to say how we love new friends and what we think of them, but words can never trace out all the fibers that knit us to the old. The strongest principle of growth lies in human choice. It's never too late to be what you might have been. What makes life dreary is the want of a motive. Adventure is not outside man, it is within. What greater thing is there for two human souls than to feel that they are joined for life, to strengthen each other in all labor, to rest on each other in all sorrow, to minister to each other in all pain, to be one with each other in silent, unspeakable memories at the moment of the last parting? The responsibility of tolerance lies with those who have the wider vision. The strongest and most effective force in guaranteeing the long-term maintenance of power is not violence in all the forms deployed by the dominant to control the dominated, but consent in all the forms in which the dominated acquiesce in their own domination. It will never rain roses. When we want to have more roses, we must plant more roses. It is a narrow mind which cannot look at a subject from various points of view. Our life is frittered away by detail, simplify. If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with success unexpected in common hours. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined. As a single footstep will not make a path on the earth, so a single thought will not make a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we walk again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. Not until we are lost do we begin to understand ourselves. The language of friendship is not words, but meanings. Things do not change, we change. Nature will bear the closest inspection. She invites us to lay our eye level with her smallest leaf and take an insect view of its plane. It is not enough to be busy. So are the ants. The question is, what are we busy about? Rather than love, than money, than faith, than fame, than fairness, give me truth. It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. Our truest life is when we are in dreams awake. The world is but a canvas to our imagination. I would rather sit on a pumpkin and have it all to myself than be crowded on a velvet cushion. Live your beliefs and you can turn the world around. The only way to tell the truth is to speak with kindness. Only the words of a loving man can be heard. Where words leave off, music begins. Doubtless, wine has been to many the fuel of their wit, as well as the oil of their lamps. It conduces to health, sobriety, and cheerfulness, but I have found it an enemy to memory and genius. We should forgive our enemies, but not before they are hanged. The nightingale, whose melody is inborn, is not exempt from the discord of her age, but rather, her song often rises above it. When words leave off, music begins. You cannot feed the hungry on statistics. Wherever they burn books, they will also, in the end, burn human beings. The essence of all religions is the same: to spread love and compassion and aid in the happiness of others. All true artists, whether they know it or not, create from a place of no mind, from inner stillness. The Christian religion is the religion of our culture, but we must confess that we have outgrown it. The world is a tragedy to those who feel, but a comedy to those who think. A clever man commits no minor blunders. Experience is a good school, but the fees are high. Every age has its own peculiarities and spirit. Our time is no exception. When words are scarce, they are seldom spent in vain. The history of the world is none other than the progress of the consciousness of freedom. It is the same with revolution, so long as the proper spirit is confined to a small minority. It is impossible to attain great results. Beauty is a primeval phenomenon which itself never makes its appearance, but the reflection of which is visible in 1,000 different utterances of the creative mind. Love is the only flower that grows and blossoms without the aid of the seasons. It is better to be hated for what you are than to be loved for what you are not. It is not the literal past that rules us, save, possibly, in a biological sense. It is images of the past. The words that a father speaks to his children in the privacy of home are not heard by the world, but, as in whispering galleries, they are clearly heard at the end and by posterity. It is easier to write an indifferent poem than to understand a good one. The most exhausting thing in life is being insincere. Life is too short to waste on things that have no lasting value. The true poet is all the time a visionary, and whether with friends or not, as much alone as a man on his deathbed. True elegance consists in not seeing elegance. When words are restrained, the eyes often talk a great deal. In this world, everything is governed by balance. There's what you stand to gain and what you stand to lose. And when you think you've got nothing to lose, you become overconfident. You cannot conceive the many without the one. The best thing one can do when it's raining is to let it rain. Perseverance is a great element of success. If you only knock long enough and loud enough at the gate, you are sure to wake up somebody. It takes less time to do a thing right than to explain why you did it wrong. Into each life some rain must fall, some days must be dark and dreary. The talent of success is nothing more than doing what you can do well, and doing well whatever you do without thought of fame. If it comes at all, it will come because it is deserved, not because it is sought after. Music is the universal language of mankind. In this world, a good time to laugh is any time you can. He that respects himself is safe from others. He wears a coat of mail that none can pierce. The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night. If we could read the secret history of our enemies, we should find in each man's life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all hostility. The love of learning, the sequestered nooks, and all the sweet serenity of books. The life of a man consists not in seeing visions and in dreaming dreams, but in active charity and in willing service. The leaves of memory seem to make a mournful rustling in the dark. Let us, then, be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. Talk not of wasted affection, affection never was wasted. It is by the goodness of God that in our country we have those three unspeakably precious things: freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, and the prudence never to practice either. The human voice is the organ of the soul. The difficulty is not that great to die for a friend when you have it in your power, but to live for him is the next great step. The love that lasts longest is the love that is never returned. All things must change to something new, to something strange. The talent of success is nothing more than doing what you can do well, and doing well whatever you do without thought of fame. If we could understand all the misfortunes of our neighbors, we would always be willing to console and assist them. The arrow and the song, in truth, are little healed by its flight afar. Ah, how good it feels! The hand of an old friend. There is nothing so stable as change. Let us be grateful to the mirror for revealing to us our appearance only. The love of learning, the sequestered nooks, and all the sweet serenity of books. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime and, departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Two things fill the mind with ever-increasing wonder and awe, the more often and the more intensely the mind of thought is drawn to them. The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. Happiness is not an ideal of reason, but of imagination. Enlightenment is man's emergence from his self-imposed knowledge. Knowledge is the inability to use one's own understanding without another's guidance. Science is organized knowledge. Wisdom is organized life. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end. Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. Morality is not the doctrine of how we may make ourselves happy, but how we may make ourselves worthy of happiness. It is beyond a doubt that all our knowledge begins with experience. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. We are not rich by what we possess, but by what we can do without. Experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is mere intellectual play. Immaturity is the incapacity to use one's intelligence without the guidance of another. Man is the only being who needs education. The only way to escape the corruptible effect of praise is to go on working. The death of dogma is the birth of morality. I had therefore to remove knowledge in order to make room for belief. All thought must, directly or indirectly, by way of certain characters, relate ultimately to intuitions, and therefore, with us, to sensibility, because in no other way can an object be given to us. The greatest happiness principle holds that the ultimate end, an end which no other is to be subordinated, is the promotion of the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest number of people. Live your life as though your every act were to become a universal law. It is not necessary that whilst I live happily, but it is necessary that so long as I live I should live honorably. I cannot comprehend how a man can be a hero to the world and yet be a coward to his own heart. Morality is not properly the doctrine of how we may make ourselves happy, but how we may make ourselves worthy of happiness.